Oh, hello. Welcome to episode 13 of the Top 2 Inches Rugby podcast, brought to you by I Spy Surveys, the go-to specialist survey and inspection company based here in Devon. So, episode 13, unlucky for some. Basically, there wasn't a great deal of rugby on this weekend. There was no ladies' game, and there was only 4 games played in the Premiership due to the dreaded COVID virus. So this week's pod, unfortunately, ladies and gents, mainly gents, because unfortunately we still don't have any ladies that listen to the podcast. It is going to be a bit of a short one. Ollie isn't going to be able to join us again this week. He is planning the biggest New Year's Eve celebrations you can imagine. I don't actually think he realises, though, that we are going to be in Tier 3 from midnight tonight, and basically he'll just be sat there on his Jack Downs. So obviously you can find us on all the kind of major platforms such as Anchor, Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcast, etc. So leave it down, let's go on with the show. Okay, so as I said, I am flying solo this week. Ollie is sorting out the biggest New Year's Eve party you can imagine. One thing I did forget to mention in the introduction is that we will have a brief look at the fantasy rugby between Ollie and I. And it will be brief because he, as he says, is charging ahead. I think he is about 149 points ahead. It was interesting that the decision made by the company that kind of organises the fantasy rugby was that any player in the 4 teams that weren't going to be playing due to COVID, you would get about a maximum of 20 points, an average of 20 points for players that were in the main team, and 10 for guys that were on the bench. So it wasn't a bad way. I guess it was just a way to make sure that people didn't lose, loads of kind of points through having to make significant changes. So unfortunately he is, like he says in his own words, steaming ahead. Hopefully next week I can turn that one around a little bit, and claw back some points. Otherwise his ego will literally be hitting the roof. So like I said in the introduction, 2 games were called off this weekend. Newcastle and Bath against Leicester and London Irish respectively. So it was a bit of it's just a shame, isn't it? There's already been games called off in the ladies' games. There's been games called off in the Pro 14, and COVID is obviously still having a significant impact on games. It's just a massive shame. Interesting. So Bath and Newcastle have been given 4 points after the Premiership games were cancelled. So the points are equivalent to a win, which has kind of left Newcastle in second place and moved Bath up to 6, which means that Tigers and Irish were deemed to have lost their games, but have been awarded 2 points each. The decision was made by the Premiership Rugby chairman, Andy Higginson. It's a bit of a weird decision, that one. I don't know. I mean, I guess it's primarily because obviously the COVID outbreaks were in the Leicester and London Irish teams. So it's no fault of kind of Bath's or Newcastle's. But I don't quite, I had a bit of a chat to Ollie about this, and we don't quite understand why the Tigers and the why Tigers and Irish have been kind of given 2 points for losing. I'm assuming maybe they're thinking they scored 4 tries and finished within 7 points, I guess. It's an interesting decision, and I guess that's one that they're going to have to continue to kind of do if there are any more issues and any more games that are cancelled through the coronavirus. So let's look at the games. Sorry, I just had a quick slurp of my tea there because I'm a little bit dry. So let's have a look at the results. I have had a chance to... I didn't get to watch much rugby over the weekend, to be fair. It was mainly kind of the highlights of the game, and I'm going to start with Bristol against Harlequins. Bristol came out on top with a 27-19 victory down at the Stoop. I don't think they've won there for quite a while. Half time ended 9-5 with the Quins on top. Bristol were pretty poor in the first half, I thought, and Quins played reasonably well despite the small margin between the teams at half time. Bristol scoring just before half time with a really lovely try from Thomas. Luatua made a break, a little bit of interplay between him and Thomas, and then Thomas scooted over for the try, which I think probably you could say was the kind of turning point for Bristol. It gave them that glimmer of hope going into half time on top, and in the second half it was a bit of a Bristol team, a different Bristol team, sorry. Pat Lam had obviously said something in the changing room that had made them buck their ideas up, and they just kind of dominated, I felt, Harlequins. Harlequins again defensively, which is really strange because obviously Gustard was the English defensive coach. They let in 4 tries. Luatua scored, Randall scored, and Adeloke scored. Randall's was a really lovely little snipe from the base of a ruck after Nathan Hughes had kind of made an indent into the defence. Really lovely try. I think Bristol just looked more comfortable in the second half. And like I said, it's the first time they've won away at the Stoop for a number of years. So the next game I'm going to have a look at is the Exeter Gloucester game. Exeter ran out victors 28-20. This was played down at Sandy Park, and again Exeter looked a little bit rusty in the first half. It was only 7-6 up at half time. But again, they came out in the second half vastly improved, scoring 3 more tries. Sam Simmons again, he's notched up 2 tries. I think he scored, I want to say, 8 tries in 4 games. He again was highly impressive and is still banging on that England door. Johnny Gray got a try. Ollie Devoto had a try as well. But I think what I liked from Gloucester was they showed a bit of grit and a bit of determination. Potentially most sides would have kind of fallen away down at Sandy Park once Exeter kind of got ahead and turned the screw on them a bit. But they didn't. They showed some determination. They showed some grit, and they stuck in there. Could they have won? I don't think so. Should they have got a losing bonus point? I think that probably would have been a fair result from the game. Interesting as well, obviously no Danny Cipriani, obviously he's not there, and although they lost, it's not looking at the moment like it's going to be having a significant impact on the dynamics of the team in a negative way. Next game, Northampton against Worcester, played at Franklin's Gardens. Northampton running out 29-10 victors against Worcester. I mean, this was it 13 or 12? Northampton's first win, I think, in about a year. 14 or 13 games, or 12 even. It's one of them. Not having a victory in any kind of competition. And they looked really good, I thought. Half time they were 17-7 up. Worcester, to be fair, were making a lot of chances. They were making line breaks, they were causing Northampton trouble, but just kind of couldn't finish off the hard work that they were putting in. Scrum half Mitchell, nice try from him. Dan Bigger got himself on the score sheet. So did Hayward, and they also had a penalty try awarded for a knock on that was deemed intentional. by Nani, who then spent 10 minutes in the bin. So things I think are potentially looking up for Northampton. It might be too early to say, but definitely to get that win will instill a lot more confidence in the team. And obviously, you know, it's more of a kind of a season team. Courtney Laws was back, Tamara Harrison was back. You know, you had Laws, Ludlam, and Harrison in the back row, Ezeke and Ribbons in the second row. That's a much more kind of solid looking pack. And obviously the lads outside, you know, played really well as well. Proctor in particular, and Furbank seems to be coming back into a little bit of form as well. So that was really positive for Northampton to get that a victory against Worcester. And there, yeah, that's the games. I think I said 4 games took place at the start of the in the introduction. Sorry, but actually it was only 3. Can't do maths. Didn't get a GCSE. So yeah, that was the outcome of the weekend's games. Looking ahead, next week's predictions. Friday night. I'm just looking at the BBC app and looking ahead to next week's games. Friday night was Bristol-Newcastle, and it looks like Harlequins and Worcester has been postponed. I'm not sure why, other than I'm imagining there must be some sort of COVID issue. I don't have that information because I've only just found out that it's been postponed. Unless obviously the BBC Sport are playing funny games with me, I don't know. But looking at Newcastle and Bristol, Newcastle away to Bristol. Obviously Newcastle are doing quite well, but Bristol are at home. Probably no fans because of all the changes to the tier system. I will still go for a Newcastle victory on that one. Saturday, you see Exeter travelling to the Ricoh Arena, taking on the mighty Wasps. I think Wasps are getting a few boys back for this game. So I think it's probably going to be... I would still say it's going to be an Exeter victory, but I think it's probably only going to be maybe one score in it. I mean, realistically, statistically, Exeter do have to lose at some point. But I don't think it'll be this weekend. And the next game on the Saturday is Sale against Gloucester, at Gloucester. Obviously, Sale, who I have completely forgotten to talk about. I do apologise. Sale's game against Wasps. There was 4 games. Sale's game against Wasps. Just going to rewind a little bit. Wasps come out victors 26-23. I mean, Wasps just know how to win, don't they? Marlon Yard, you know, he scored a good couple of tries on his 50th appearance, I think it was, for Sale. But I think Wasps just had a little bit too much in the tank. It is 3 losses for Sale on the bounce, obviously, since the departure of Steve Diamond. So things aren't right up in Manchester. Definitely not. I don't know if it's a coaching thing or a player thing, because they certainly have the quality in their team to be producing victories. We'll just have to see what's going on. Maybe it is a bit of instability. But to be fair as well to Wasp, you know, they had an academy guy starting at 9, I think, and an academy guy at 10. You know, they had no oh my God, I've completely lost his name. Willis, neither of the Willis brothers were in the back row. Barbary had another great game at number 8. But yeah, it's not a team that you would kind of say, you know, household names. There was an unfortunate injury to Kirkbridge, who I think is probably going to be out for a while. And yeah, so that was the game. Sorry about that. Completely forgot about the game on the Sunday. So yeah, moving forward in time again to Saturday's games. I was talking about Gloucester Sale. Gloucester, I think, turned up quite well against Exeter, like I said. And I'd imagine that they would come out on top against Sale. Sale are in poor form, I think, at the moment, since Dimes has left. And then Sunday, London Irish, Northampton. Northampton obviously came off a good win. London Irish haven't played for a couple of weeks. They're probably going to be a bit rusty. I think that will be a Northampton win. And the game of the weekend, and I am gutted he's not here to talk about this, because it's Bath versus Leicester at Welford Road. Both teams didn't play last weekend, so could potentially be a bit rusty. I think Leicester personally have turned a corner. I think they are, they're going to be welcoming back the England internationals, no doubt, because it's one of the biggest rivalries in the Premiership, Leicester v Bath. So you're probably going to see Ford, Genji, all the boys will be back. And I am predicting a Leicester victory at Welford Road. Obviously, if Ollie was here, he would be saying the opposite. He would be saying it would be a Bath victory, but he's not. So, hey-ho, there we go. Anyway, that rounds up the weekend's Premiership action, and looking forward to next week's as well. So that was episode 13 of the Top 2 Inches Rugby podcast. Thank you very much for tuning in and listening once again. As I said in the introduction, apologies for it being a bit of a short one, but I've realised I have managed to waffle on a little bit, so there is about 20 minutes worth of me just dribbling on and making errors, which is always good fun. Just to say thank you once again to I Spy Surveys, the go-to specialist survey and inspection company based in Exeter, Devon. Again, they are going to continue to sponsor us into 2021. As I said before, we are on Twitter at the Top 2 Inches RP. So go on there, like us, comment on our posts, send me questions, send us questions, ask anything. We're quite happy to answer. We're quite open and honest in our rugby podcast. As I said before, you can find us on all platforms such as Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcast and Anchor. We will be back next week in the new year 2021 with episode 14. Hopefully 2021 is a much better year than 2020, because let's be fair, it's been a bit of a bitch. Thanks everyone for listening, and we'll see you again soon.